Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from room 1214 here at the state legislature. Ray Hager's along with me as guest host today. And who's coming up on the program?
Well, Sam, first we have Senator John Lee. He is not a fan of Nevada's legal brothel industry. Then we have Assemblywoman Valerie Weber of Las Vegas, and she'll talk about the relevancy of being a minority Republican in the Assembly when nobody needs her vote for anything.
And on the Power Pundit panel today, Michael Hackett, Keith Lee, and Jim Wadhams. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
High-tech companies demand perfect world amenities. They require clean, reliable power, state-of-the-art fiber optic communications, and clean water sources. In a perfect world, companies would have immediate access to rail and interstate freeways. There would be 4-lane expressways that shorten shipping times and provide convenient commute routes for valued employees. Well, the future is now, and it's here. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevadans.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
Coverage of Nevada Newsmakers from the state legislature in Carson City is brought to you by the Nevada Beer Wholesalers Association.
As an employer, did you know you can be held liable for negligent hiring? A background screening by Employer Links can uncover criminal records, like alcohol and drug convictions. It can verify the applicant's education, driving records, and professional licenses. Employer Links can check civil records, registered sex offender records, and Social Security fraud. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
Oh, you bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
This is a special edition of Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And on Nevada Newsmakers today, snow did not get in the way of the appearance on the program of John Lee. You got in trouble last week with all that snow. Couldn't make it to the show. It was crazy.
It's exciting. I've been fortunate enough to live up in Lake Tahoe just a little bit. We've never really, in southern Nevada, lived among snow much. And so the fact is, I'd only been one night in my life in the snow, so when I move up here, I bring my wife and my children. They go to high school. We experience the weather, and we love it.
Yeah, he's a senator from Clark County. Let's start out with minimum wage. How do you think that's going to play out in this session?
That's an interesting question. I think the component, the CPI component, is probably the biggest issue on that. A lot of businesses don't feel that they want to get tied in any kind of CPI index. I don't think that business and people in general feel that the minimum wage is too high by now by any means. I think that there is a good appetite maybe to raise it to $1. At least that's what I'm saying. When it comes out of committee, I have no idea.
Senator, you insisted on keeping the brothels out of the live entertainment tax. I wonder why, because isn't that live entertainment?
Ray, that's an interesting question this morning. I don't consider brothels to be a legitimate business, but yet in Nevada they are a legitimate business, you know. And if people are going to go there, that's fine. I don't. What's worried me was if we get into the idea of considering brothels those type of businesses, and eventually we're going to let them advertise and things like that. If they're going to be there, fine, but I don't want to do anything to encourage the growth of them. If you lived in Nye County and there was going to be a 10% increase to your community budget there, it might encourage you to build more brothels just across the Clark County line, and so that you can help your county.
Well, but that
There's a limited number of licenses.
Right, but that's set by the counties, and the counties right now do collect money, substantial amounts of money from the brothels. We have great needs in this state for education, full-day kindergarten, all these other things. This is one instance where the brothel owners are saying, we want to be taxed. Why can't you tax them and put in a stipulation that you still can't advertise, you still can't put up billboards? Do it any way you want, but then that way the state gets the benefit. I mean, it's already going on.
Well, and once again, I don't want to legitimize it. I will admit it's here. I'm not putting in bills to try to remove it, but I don't want to build our counties on the backs of brothels.
Okay. Senator, when you won your election in '03, you ran against Ray Schaefer, former Senator Ray Schaefer. As I recall, in the '03 session, Senator Schaefer skipped out and went to Hawaii while the rest of the lawmakers huddled and fought to try to work out this record tax plan. Would you take a trip to Hawaii before this session's over?
No, I wouldn't. You know, the fact is, I've canceled vacations to do things. I think when you're elected, you're bound to continue until the end of the job.
That had to be like a softball in the election.
that was a blessing, you know, and I did use it in my race to state this would be the difference between your elected official. You know, Ray made that choice. I wouldn't make that choice.
University systems had kind of a tough time at this session so far, but you've got one of the bills here that would actually benefit the Board of Regents by paying them. Why do you want to see the Board of Regents become paid? You
know, since day one, the Board of Regents have never received a dime's pay. The Board of Regents first was started by the treasurer, the governor, and the superintendent of schools, and it kind of grew and grew, but it grew to a point that it got bigger than those three people, and they started putting the Board of Regents in to help. And the way the Board of Regents make money now is just kind of a clandestine way. They have host accounts, and host accounts are accounts that they invest money and they put money in this account, and then these guys kind of reach up and take money when they need it. I mean, they try to justify things. I think if we put them on a pay scale like $80 a day, like what school members get, then they don't have to do these clandestine ways to get money. I think they're paid for when they work, and that should be all that they get. And when somebody runs for the elected official position, they know what to receive. Right now, we have quite a few wealthy people, maybe more some elitist people, but a person like you, Sam, who has a great degree in journalism, probably couldn't maybe miss a day of work.
He's still
no degree.
British elitist.
You know, still has something to give back to the university system, but maybe because of wife and children responsibilities, you can't miss a day of work where you're at. But now if we could pay you that $80 a day to augment your income, you could come back and give the university.
You've got a situation with Howard Rosenberg, for example, who's a university teacher, and he mortgaged his house. He didn't even put together a campaign fund. He mortgaged his house to be able to run the first time for the Board of Regents. I think if people really want to serve, that they will make the appropriate arrangements.
That's true, and Howard has given 100% to the position too. It's just my way of saying let's bring out their pay into the open. They are receiving some money different ways than you and I know. They have to keep it hush hush so that it doesn't look like they're running for the position for those hush account monies. Let's just pay them $80 a day for their meetings, and then get on with it.
Senator, you ran for controller in '02 against Kathy Augustine. Spirited campaign. Now there's talk about combining the controller's office, Kathy Augustine's office, with the treasurer. How do you stand on that?
Well, that issue has come up many times, but it's not really Kathy Augustine issue. It's perceived to be a better strengthening of the office for the governor. But I like the firewall system. I like the guy that collects the money, putting it in the bank, and the guy that writes the checks. Writing the checks. I think that having the same person do the same job isn't a safe procedure. In corporate America, that's how things are done. You have CFOs and you have treasurers and stuff like that. I don't want to combine the two. I don't think it's a very, very good idea.
Do you think your view is the majority view?
You know, I've never discussed that with anybody, but I think it's a pragmatic view, and I think people that realize the amounts of money that come through their responsibilities, though Brian Krolicki and Kathy Augustine, I'll say, are doing a real good job, I still think it should be separate.
And we're out of time. John Lee, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
For a videotape copy of any Nevada Newsmakers program, call 775-857-2244. The tapes are $20 each, including shipping.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
Reno's best dining values are all at one casino, the Pepper Mill. You can enjoy great savings on our popular specials. Pepper Mill's coffee shop offers daily lunch specials, low-carb dining, and all your favorite comfort foods. You'll find sensational lunch specials featuring Reno's freshest seafood, sushi, pasta, and more at Oceano. And early bird specials at Reno's Premier Steakhouse and Romanza Ristorante Italiano. The best values are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you dining?
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And we welcome to the program Valerie Weber, who's an Assemblywoman from Clark County, Republican. Pleasure to have you here on the program.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it.
Last session, you were one of the 15 that stood against the tax increase. How do you feel now that you are vindicated?
Well, the way I look at it is that even during the last session, with all the pressure, I've studied economics somewhat, and I just felt it was too much too soon. We needed to see what was going to happen. You don't tax coming out of a recession, and now we see the evidence of that. And now that we have a new budget along with a surplus, that's something that ought to be said about what happened that last session. I think that the people were right.
Well, what do you think about the fact that at this point everybody's trying to divvy up the money to spend it, and there doesn't seem to be a great lust for either putting the money into the rainy day fund or rebating it back to the people? There's quite a strong motion to just spend it.
Well, I think if you go back and review, the same folks that advocated the tax increase last time are probably most likely the ones that would, the usual suspects, if you will, that would like to spend the surplus. And personally, I believe it does not belong here. It belongs to the people. We overcharged them, and that the money needs to go back to the people.
What way would you like to see it go back? Would you favor Governor Gwynn's vehicle rebate or the Assembly Democrats' gas tax rebate?
At this stage, I'm evaluating all of them. I certainly would be supportive of the governor's plan of the $300 million, if we can take it to that limit, because I believe the most that we can give back is what we ought to do, as well as do a replenishment of the rainy day fund.
Okay.
I think those are wise decisions.
Now, Valerie, in 03, the Mean 15 did hold a lot of sway in the Assembly and the overall legislature because of the 2/3 needed to pass any tax. This year, there's no big tax plans, and the Assembly Democrats clearly have a majority. So what is the relevancy of any Assembly Republican, because they don't need you to pass anything?
Well, if you take a look at the bills that we examine, most bills are simple majority. I would agree with that. And the 2/3, anything to do with money, for the most part, have a 2/3. However, the voice of the people is what we try to represent, or that's what I try to do. I try to represent the constituents in my district as well as the needs of the other parts of the state. We have urban areas, we have rurals. We need to watch out for the needs of all of our citizens, and I think we're still relevant because of that.
But how do you get anything passed with such a minority?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a challenge, but I know from my own personal experience, I am here to work across the aisle. I try to do that wherever possible, and to advocate for. If you look at most bills, you'll see that most of them go out of here 42 to 0, because there is great bipartisan support for most bills, but you'll see that there's emerging differences when it comes to money, and that's usually what it's about, is money.
Whether the rebate goes through or not, do you think we're going to see a taxpayer's Bill of Rights coming out?
That's what I understand.
Do you support that?
Yeah, I support a spending cap, whatever that may be called or whatever it looks like. I'd like to take a look at it. I know that there's some models out there, and we also see over time that those models need to be modified. So I would certainly like to take a look at that, because if you look at population growth plus inflation, we are spending at a greater rate than that, and that should be questioned, and the taxpayers seem to be questioning it. When we set up the property tax relief through ABA 489, it's on taxpayers' radar screen that they're paying too much right now, and for there to be any additional spending beyond what they feel they're getting for their services needs to be examined.
Now, you're on the Assembly Ways and Means Committee as a second-term Assemblywoman. What about the play between Democrats and Republicans on that committee? Seems like Democrats want to spend, and the Republicans that from the committee meetings I saw do not want to spend.
I believe there are those issues, and I know that within the subcommittees where there's the Senate and the Assembly members, that we're pretty much, I don't know, and Republicans in the House and in the Senate seem to agree on a lot of those issues. And for me, it's been a great experience, because I don't even know, I can't quote you the number of total budget accounts that we examined, but some of them needed to be shored up, especially in the area of mental health this year. Other areas, I would take a second look, and we've actually done some no votes, and we're going to have to reconcile with the Senate on those, because obviously in our side we have less votes than the other party.
Well, specifically, what do you put no votes for? I don't see a lot of no votes coming out of Ways and Means.
Well, as far as the total vote, you won't see that, because we only have the minority of the votes on that. So the Assembly side, typically the amount of Democrats that are on that committee is what you're going to see come out of the.
So what happens in Ways and Means with Republicans and Democrats, where Republicans can vote no and it doesn't really matter, that brings back the point of relevancy for Republicans in the Assembly, doesn't it?
I believe that it does show that we do vote our principles, regardless if it's 100% vote, or if we were in the majority and we control the votes on the committee, but we don't control the votes on the committee, but we do vote the way we feel is appropriate.
And we are out of time. Valerie Weber, thank you so much for being here. We'll be right back with the Pundits after this.
Thank you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
Since its creation more than a decade ago, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has focused on 3 goals: preserving water quality, improving water conservation in Southern Nevada, and meeting the community's current and future water needs. Through thoughtful planning, responsible management, and collaboration, it's succeeding. As we move into the 21st century, the authority continues to embrace sustainable water development and efficient water use. That's our promise to Nevada.
I tell you, John, this industry has really changed.
Tell me about it.
You seemed to do pretty well last year. What's your secret?
No secrets. Although I'll tell you something. The smartest thing I did was sign up with Pro Group Management.
Really? Yeah, they do workers' comp, right?
Yeah, their services are great. And get this, they saved me 30%. I've heard they saved others 50%.
That works for me.
Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers with our Power Pundit panel today, we're joined by Jim Wadhams with Jones Vargas, and also Keith Lee, who's a lobbyist and attorney down here, and Michael Hackett with Alrus Consultant, also a lobbyist. Welcome to all of you. I want to start out with you, Michael. Yesterday, New York Times broke the story that the Supreme Court had made a decision about wine importation directly from wineries into states that had previously banned it, and said that that was not constitutional. Is that going to affect anything going on here at the legislature?
We do hope that it will, yes. There's a situation right now where a company wants to come up and set up a rectifying and distribution facility in this, in this state. And
would you explain what that is? Because last time we talked about this, we didn't actually explain that, and people were confused.
In terms of what a rectifier is, what a rectifier does is he blends and mixes to create a new product, but he is not a creator of alcohol. He does not do what a distillery does, which is create alcohol, but he takes alcohol and makes a new product, packages it, and then gets it out to market. What we think this bill will do will kind of open up the gates, because what the ruling did yesterday was to allow states, and I believe there's 24 states in the country that currently block imports of wines from out of state to protect the local entities that provide wine. So we're hoping this is going to open up the door and kind of make it easier for other companies to come in and do business in this state, adding to economic development, just adding a real good.
Well, if we get more alcohol in the state, I guess that's a good thing.
Keith, Senator Townsend was saying that we might even need to take a look in the interim session at the 3-tier system in the state. Do you think that's going to happen?
Yeah, I think we'll probably look at it the interim. Right now, I think there's a view among some of the legislators that the 3-tier system probably was good when it was instituted around Prohibition in that era, but it's something that needs to be looked at now and see if it still has any valid purpose for existing in the way it is now, or whether there should be some relief, as Michael has indicated. The rectifier who's looking to come here might need.
Some pretty big law firms involved in this situation.
The biggest.
I believe my firm is involved. I'm not personally involved, but just in regard to this, I recall several sessions ago when former Speaker Joe Dini probably created the first breach of the 3-tier system by allowing a microbrewery in Virginia City, and the designation was an historic district, to be both in that case, a brewer, and didn't need a wholesaler, but a direct retailer. And that was the first microbrewery. Of course, now we have them all over the state, but I think this erosion of the 3-tier system has probably been taking place in this state now for 3 or 4 sessions.
Okay, let's talk about hospitals. That's one of your areas of specialty here. How are the hospitals faring at this point?
Hopefully they have an extra bed. I think after yesterday's hearing, I could stand to be a patient for a while. It's been a very interesting issue, and for your viewers up here in the north may not be aware of what's happened in southern Nevada. There was a very large contract dispute between the major hospitals and basically the gaming properties and the Culinary Health and Welfare Trust. They ended up negotiating a contract, but in that process, I think the union and the hotels felt that there was some risk there, and it was time to try to legislate their costs. And so these bills, part of it have to do with planning, and that's a good thing. And the other one that remains, that was heard yesterday, really has to do with legislating costs that the culinary union and the casinos have to pay for health care, which is kind of a fascinating opportunity. Those who've your viewers who are individuals have no control over that, can't conceive of doing that, but of course those sorts of political interests represented by those organizations can come down here and get the votes and potentially legislate what you pay.
Well, what about the patients? What about the patients in our state's hospital? Is there going to be any relief for them? They go to the hospital, if they have, it costs them an arm and a leg
to fix an
arm and a leg.
You know, I think, Ray, that's an excellent question, and it really raises the real problem here. I'm old enough to remember when healthcare was fairly simple, and you had a doctor who wasn't necessarily a specialist. Now, in the course of some treatment, you may see 2 or 3 or 4 different specialists. The sophistication of our drugs is dramatically greater. I mean, the complexity of healthcare today is significantly different than it was 30, 40 years ago. So the cost of healthcare is going to be more. I have a great deal of sympathy for anybody that has to pay full retail price, whether it's discounted or otherwise, at any healthcare provider, hospital, doctor, dentist, or otherwise. That's really a much broader problem than, gee, let's go pick a bill and reduce what, to a major purchaser, 380,000 people in this group. That's who this legislation's for. It's not for Joe and Jane viewer.
Well, this is shades of the 83 and 85 session when Dick Bryan became governor, and the old hospital rate setting commission that we talked about in those days. And that, as I recall, that received an awful lot of attention for a couple sessions. And I don't know if we're getting back to that or not. On the other hand, I mean, at some point in time, you know, there has to be sort of the blending of if we're in the hospital or one of our loved ones in the hospital, we don't care what, you know, the cost is at that point in time. We want the best care available, all the tests that are necessary and everything, and we worry about the cost later. And so it's one of those, I mean, how do you weigh what you want for yourself or your loved ones versus what the cost is, whether it's a true cost or whether it's an inflated cost. That cost is still out there, and it's a per unit cost if you want to break it right down to simple economics. And how do you deal with those issues?
Well, one of the particular problems that's come up, though, is that over the course of time, we have abdicated public responsibility for health care to the private sector. And yet, ironically, here we are later when 85% of our beds are controlled by private firms, some nonprofit, some for-profit. Now we are not happy with the fact that we don't have public control, but we have not invested in public hospitals. So the legislature has to kind of get off of the fence. If you want public health care, they have to invest in it.
But let's not forget one thing. Let's not forget the responsibility of the person to take care of himself or herself. You know, there's a whole lot of people who are in the healthcare system right now who are there because they have not taken care of themselves.
And that's where we're going to leave it. We're out of time. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the world's largest industrial park, the resort at Red Hawk, and the Peppermill family of casinos.
Here at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, water resources come from fresh, clean groundwater, approved by state permits. The water is pumped from wells to million-gallon storage tanks and then distributed to TRI companies. Another amenity is our investment in a state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant. This disposal system converts waste to clean water for industrial applications. Welcome to the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, the largest industrial park in the world, building economic prosperity for Nevada.
Who's up tomorrow, Ray?
Well, Sam, first we got Assemblyman William Horn. This guy should really pick up his room. And then we have Danny Thompson of the AFL-CIO union boss.
We'll see you next time on Nevada Newsmakers. Thanks for watching.